Welcome to MTN Outdoors.
This is the Big Sky State, right? Well, let's talk about it. On a clear night, you can see some of the best stars in the country. It's not too hard to get away from city lights, and there's not really enough bustle and people for much air pollution, especially since we aren't in fire season. It's the perfect place and time to see an astrological event, like a planetary alignment. 7 planets aligning only happens a handful of times in the average human lifespan. Speaking of lifespan, what's on your bucket list? Have you ever jumped out of a plane? This is something that I look forward to doing here when the winter weather winds down. It'd be great to see these beautiful lands from up above. Coming up, we're going to learn about big skydiving. And while we're up there, you may have heard this atmospheric buzzword, cloud seeding. Weather manipulation is real, and it's happening in skies above you. For MTN Outdoors, I'm Keith Grevenitz, shooting for the stars and taking you sky high.
In January, a rare planetary alignment occurred as Mars, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, Venus, and Saturn were all visible in the night sky. Well, this month, Mercury joins the party, making that 7 planets. Any number of planets from 3 to 8 constitutes an alignment. 5 or 6 planets assembling is a large alignment. The 7-planet alignment is rarest of all. This week, 7 other planets are aligned in a stunning night sky view. Each night this week, the planets will be visible for about 90 minutes after sunset before some begin to fade from view. Starting around 7 p.m., face towards the south, and you should be able to see Mercury, Venus, and Saturn to the right or west near where the sun previously set. The higher planets, Mars and Jupiter, will be more above you in the night sky and to the east. Mercury and Saturn will disappear first, setting in the western sky. Once again, just like the last alignment, Uranus and Neptune will be visible only with a telescope or high-powered binoculars. The next time an alignment like this will happen is the year 2040. The next window after that, 2080. And if you can find all 7 of these planets in the night sky, here's a tip to see a grand total of 8 planets. Just look down and you'll see the 8th. The next must-see celestial event is coming on March 14th when a lunar eclipse occurs. Now only if that weatherman will give us clear skies. And now you're a little more weather-wise.
Keep an eye on the sky over Stevensville for some new fun dropping this spring.
Many people just do one jump, but other people who become skydivers, they get a little bit obsessed about it and can't get it out of their mind, and then they just want to keep doing it.
Every year, millions skydive in the U.S. Now, jumping in the big sky is getting closer to home as Skydive Missoula ramps up to bring big dives back to the Bitterroot for the first time since the 90s.
In a nutshell, it's the very safest aviation-related activity that you can do. It's safer than commercial flying. It's safer than a Champagne sunset hot air balloon ride.
Skydiving is more than a sport for husband and wife Luke and Beth Short. They met through skydiving and even broke a world record together.
We were the largest group from the highest altitude. A group of 8 of us jumped from 33,154 feet. Yeah, up where the jets fly. They had to stop air traffic for us. And it was a very long, very fast free fall.
When they moved to Missoula in 2020, they noticed something was missing. No drop zone within 3.5 hours.
When we came here to the Stevensville airport and saw the incredible beauty of the mountain wilderness that we have here, it just seemed to us like the most idyllic place that we could even imagine a drop zone being. It was just magic. And so we knew right then and there that we wanted to start Skydive Missoula at some point.
Now they're prepping to start the engines for skydiving and a flight school at their hangar.
We're gonna be offering tandem skydives and student skydives. Basically, we will take someone from nothing to their skydiving license if that's what they want to do.
Mostly, they just want to get others into the sport they've loved from the jump.
Nobody forgets their first jump. It's something that, forever afterwards, you're always going to be looking toward the sky and thinking of that day and that experience. What I remember about that jump most specifically is that it's kind of difficult to remember anything except for that thrill, that pure thrill. and the smiles and the exhilaration.
Come April in warmer air, Skydive Missoula will be hitting the skies and dropping into the Bitterroot.
I always tell people, if you think that you would enjoy skydiving, you probably will. And so you should come out and give it a try, even if you're scared.
In Stevensville, Caroline Weiss, MTN News.
For years now, Montana has been dealing with inconsistent high mountain snowpack to the detriment of agriculture, river health, and wildfires. Some believe it's time Montana address this issue through a process known as cloud seeding.
Water is key. If you haven't got air and water, you're done.
Jim Hagenbarth's family has been cattle ranching in Idaho and Montana since the late 19th century.
We're not owners, we're only tenants. That rock down there is going to be there 10 million years after I'm gone.
He believes the best way to manage this ground is through cloud seeding, a process of manually introducing silver iodide into clouds in the hope of creating moisture, specifically snowfall. The Montana Department of Natural Resources and Conservation is in the midst of a feasibility study to determine if cloud seeding will be a viable option for increasing snowpack in the Big Hole watershed.
Cloud seeding is not a panacea. It's not going to be it's not going to cure all our ills. It's one more tool in the toolbox. And so if we can have a little bit more, moisture for irrigation and for fish and for everybody else come the next season, then that's worth looking into.
Cloud seeding has been in practice since the 1940s. Some speculate it could increase potential water supply by 10 to 15%.
With the increase in drought and just with water insecurity, if you will, there's obviously interest in trying to squeeze a little bit more out of the clouds that are going through.
Montana is one of the few western states that does not practice cloud seeding. Surrounding states, North Dakota, Wyoming, Utah, have been doing it for years. Idaho claims the practice has been successful for about 20 years, generating about 1.24 million acre-feet of water.
Putting that in perspective, here in the Boise system, we have a 3-reservoir system that would fill, over all of those reservoirs here in our Boise system. It would fill Palisades in East Idaho. So that's a significant amount of water for us here.
Opponents worry about the environmental impacts from silver iodide use and downwind effects of cloud seeding. Proponents claim the silver iodide used is minuscule and has no adverse effects on the environment, and there is no evidence of downwind impacts.
If we want to be responsible people, we have to base our decisions on science that's proven and that works.
The DNRC's feasibility study is expected to be completed by the end of February. The study then goes to the governor's office, and then it would be up to the state legislature to decide if cloud seeding should be implemented in Montana. In Glen, John Amy, MTN News.
You're watching MTN Outdoors.
We now return to MTN Outdoors.
We had some amazing snowfall for skiing, and then poof, we're getting a spring pump fake. While it's warm, we'll keep your eyes on the prize. We're learning about one of the founders of Great Divide as you know it, especially if you've warmed up between runs with a beverage or two. There's a really cool program that gets people out cross-country skiing, some people that didn't think they'd ever do it again. It'll pull on your heartstrings and inspire you to get you and your family out there to enjoy the Montana winter.
After shredding the slopes at Great Divide, you probably have found yourself enjoying a drink with good company at this very bar. And I'm here with the man, Roger Bisson, who built this bar and these stools by hand decades ago.
Pleasure to meet you, Rod. Each time we've found one. It got so expensive that I finally said, well, I'll just build it.
And build a bar he did. It took Roger 3 months from start to finish. He was working against the clock and had to have it ready for lawmakers to visit in the 1980s. To get it done, Roger enlisted the help of a carpenter in Bozeman that completed the rail and molding. And Roger's son completed the wood carvings that adorn the top.
But other than that, I did it all. And it's built in 3 sections so that we could move it up here.
But Roger's role in Great Divide's hospitality goes beyond the bar. He learned to ski at Belmont, which is now Great Divide, and became a partner of Kevin Taylor, who brought modern lifts to the Marysville ski hill.
But it worked out good. We finally got snow, and people started coming here.
When he met me at the bar on Thursday, it had been 20 years since he had last visited. But one of his friends who still skis has let him know that skiers and snowboarders enjoy drinks on his woodwork all the time.
He says, I'm keeping an eye on that bar you built. Anyway, it's held up pretty well.
And as for the future, 93-year-old Roger Bisson says,
well, I hope it just keeps progressing.
Reporting in Marysville, I'm Madeline Heath, MTN News.
The mission of Ski for Light Montana is to teach and help individuals who are visually impaired cross-country ski. And those people involved in this group say it's one of the best things they can do.
So I went blind in 2004.
I had a brain tumor when I was 7.
Whatever journey got them here.
After having 4 strokes 18 months ago, I can't drive, I can't ride a bike.
The strides they take with Ski for Light Montana are unbeatable.
I thought that my world revolved around my 3.8 mile radius that I could walk. And this, I can't say how it feels.
Every winter, participants and guides take a 3-day trip to West Yellowstone.
This program means everything just to get out of Billings.
So it's always fun.
Looking back on some memories of trips, Ski for Light guide Patrick Joyce has been involved since 1989.
There's a lot of fear, especially when going to the first Ski for Light, because they'll be on skis. Maybe they've never ever been on skis.
Guiding through the nerves in whatever terrain the participant feels comfortable with.
We always learn to roll and fall, sit, left and right. For me, it's the reward of being able to see success.
It was truly one of the most fulfilling things I've ever got to do.
It costs about $500 per person for the ski event, and they rely on donations and hope to reach more people.
I know that there's probably people that would love to do it, but they don't know about it.
Offering a safe and rewarding experience.
If we can't run, we can walk, we can ski, snowshoe, but the main thing is to be outdoors.
And giving light in what can be the darkest times.
This gives you hope and life when it's hard to find life.
In Billings, Haley Monaco, MTN News.
It's a beautiful day at Great Divide, and you're watching MTN Outdoors. Woo! Hey, bud.
We now return to MTN Outdoors.
These Montana lands and views are amazing, but Mother Nature can be brutal. If you were worried about the supervolcano under Yellowstone, I have an update for you to put you at ease. Scientists, conservationists, and Forest Service professionals are busy working to manage Montana's mood swings. Wildfires aren't on top of mind for most people right now, but some of those experts we mentioned are still focused on preventing big fires and even some of the lesser known after effects of those big burns.
We'll have none of that.
The stove isn't on in Yellowstone, so we're not worried about a volcanic event there in the near future.
Scientist Mike Pullen knows that because of a research technique that is almost more interesting than the finding itself.
This is really an incredibly high-resolution electrical conductivity image of the subsurface. It hasn't even been possible before.
It's based on recent updates to a 70-year-old technology.
Just the whole idea that we're using magnetotellurics to look at the conductivity beneath the ground is pretty stunning.
In science shorthand, it's called MT. It utilizes electric currents flowing deep into the earth.
And that electrical current is not generated by, generators or anything like it. It's generated by solar particles hitting the earth and worldwide lightning. It's this is the sort of thing that I do for a living, this sort of geophysics, and it still stuns me that this kind of stuff is even possible.
This is not just a study of the Yellowstone caldera. This is really a huge study area.
It's a bit like digital camera. And the more megapixels you have, the better your resolution is. So the more sensors you have out there, that's essentially megapixels.
Now, this map may be a little bit confusing. It has an awful lot of data on it. The red triangles that you see represent the MT data study sites. Now, this map is showing a different kind of monitoring station. These are seismic stations, and they're scattered all around the park. Came online mostly about 2020 or so.
When we merge the two data sets, that's when things can really come into focus.
New data shows large pools of hot, sometimes liquid, sometimes kind of mushy rock beneath the park.
In order to mobilize it to really feed a consequential volcanic eruption, you would need to remelt some of that.
So that means the terror YouTube videos about a Yellowstone eruption are mostly just speculation or outright fantasy.
Right now, in the United States, one of the world's largest volcanoes is gearing up to explode.
So don't believe that stuff. It's just clickbait.
That doesn't take away, though, from the hazards that are in the region. One of them is strong earthquakes. Those are present because of the tectonic activity in the whole region. The 1959 magnitude 7.3 Hebgen Lake earthquake is an example. Or these steam explosions like the one we saw last summer.
More on that is coming up in a future report. I'm John Shearer, MTN News.
The Rally for Public Lands happens here in the Capitol Rotunda every legislative session. But this year, much of the focus was on the federal government.
There's a lot more at stake than political games playing in Washington, okay? This is about Montana. It's our future. It's our children's future. Let's get out there, make our voices loud.
Many of those in attendance held signs criticizing the Trump administration for laying off workers at agencies supervising federal lands. Hillary Hutchison, a fly fishing outfitter who emceed the rally, says her daughter was one of those affected.
She got a job, with the BLM that was quickly pulled, that she didn't even get to start. She didn't even have a first day or an orientation. It was over before it started. And that was very, very jarring because she worked so hard, because she has such passion for the work, because she was going to be a range scientist and her future was in front of her.
On the state level, speakers at the rally were concerned about bills like Senate Bill 307 from Senate Majority Leader Tom McGilvray. It would take revenue from Montana's legal marijuana sales, which has been going to several wildlife and recreation programs, and redirect it to substance abuse and law enforcement measures. McGilvray says there are already revenue streams going to these programs, and money from the marijuana program should go to the impacts it creates.
If you have smoking revenue from tax on cigarettes, you use it to deal with the harms and prevention to get people to quit smoking. You don't use it to provide habitat for non-game animals like gophers. I mean, it's a disconnect.
But opponents say redirecting a stable source of funding that supports public lands is the wrong step.
It's amazing to hear people say, this could be this and this could be that, when we have something that is already important. That people have already asked for, that people have voted on, that people have spoken up for.
Another topic was a proposed joint resolution from Republican Representative Tom Millett of Marion, expressing support for a Utah lawsuit questioning the federal government's authority to hold on to unappropriated public lands under the Bureau of Land Management. Opponents say it's a slippery slope toward transferring lands out of public hands. Millett told MTN that's not the goal, and he thinks it's an important constitutional question that ought to be resolved. McGilvray's bill is set for a hearing next week. Millett's hasn't yet been officially introduced. In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.
These snow-packed hills may not look like they have suffered fire damage, but this is in the area of the Horse Gulch fire burn scar, and it is not unheard of for areas like this to experience flooding months to years after a wildfire.
It's a big concern. If you look at our hills around us, you can see that they've actually been formed by that kind of action over the millennia, so we're not immune to it.
Lewis and Clark County Disaster and Emergency Services says the most common disaster in our area is fire, while the most destructive is flooding.
That heat sort of bakes the earth, keeps the ground from being able to absorb the water, and then it just runs basically the quickest way downhill that it can.
According to previous MTN reporting, Montana averages roughly 470,000 acres burned per year. The Horse Gulch comprised over 15,000 of those acres when it burned last summer, and the burn scar has already been impacted by flash flooding. This year, we have had a heavier snow than the previous year, and as it begins to melt, the risk of flooding will increase.
The biggest thing is that you've got that increased amount of moisture that can then run downhill, and the cold also keeps the ground from absorbing that water.
Residents in the burn scar area can purchase flood insurance if they are concerned for their property. Since the Horse Gulch fire started on federal land, the 30-day wait period for it to take effect is waived. The fire was determined to be human-caused.
The Horse Gulch fire was a huge impact to our community. We lost a firefighter. We do have some suspects.
Other ways to protect your property include clearing drains and being cautious of where you place plowed snow. Open houses to discuss flooding will be held next month, but the details are still being confirmed. In Helena, I'm Allie Kaiser, MTN News.
All right, all my Big Sky people, thanks for tuning in to MTN Outdoors. Get out there and enjoy that. I'm Keith Revenants.